Did we talk about base effect? Base effect, no. Base effect. Online people, am I audible? Yes, no. Am I audible? Okay, perfect. So what is this base effect? Very simple thing. Very simple thing. Probably I told you in the last class as well, but I don't know if you remember. Say, for example, in real life, we'll take a situation. Something you have is priced at 10 rupees. Okay. Let's suppose a chocolate. The price of this on a average basis every year, by how much does it increase? What is 10 rupee? It will become 11 rupees maybe. Next year it will become probably 12 rupees, 13 rupees. This is the normal way of growth. Agreed? So normally the prices move like this. This is the normal trend. Understood? Now let's suppose this is 10. Instead of becoming 11, if the price for some reason becomes 15, okay, the price becomes how much? 15, and then the price becomes 12. Okay, understood? What is the normal trend? This is the normal trend. This is the normal trend. So in this particular year, we are talking about which year? This particular year, when we are talking about, compared to last year, the prices increased or not? Yes, that is the normal trend. When we look at this year, here, in this trend, what do we see? The prices increased or fell? The prices fell down in this trend, right? The prices have fallen. But did the prices actually fall according to the trend? No. Actual trend के हिसाब से तो उतना ही है. It is remaining the same. Just because last year we had high prices, we feel that the prices are low this year. Can you say the same thing is true like this? 10 here. The prices became, for some reason, 6. Next year the prices become 12. What do you feel? You feel like the prices have increased by too much. But in reality, it is just following a trend. Yes or no? Has it happened in real life, as in, in the real life situation, in the economy? Has it happened? It has happened so many times. Right? Why does this happen? This is just because of, we compare the next year's price with the last year's price. So this year's prices are compared to the previous year's price. What is the base? The base is previous year. Whenever we compare, the base is what? The previous year. So just because last year prices were too low or too high, this year prices look like they are too low or too high, just because of last year. So last year is considered as the base. This effect of you feeling the price to be too low or too high, just because of the last year's prices, is known as what? Base effect. Clear? This is known as base effect. Can you say that the same thing happens for your GDP growth as well? For GDP growth as well, can you say the same thing happens? Last year, the GDP was too high for some reason. This year, it is normal only. But it feels like the GDP has fallen. Yes or no? Let's suppose 1000 was the GDP. Normally, it grows by 100, 1100, 1200. This is how it grows, let's suppose. The GDP increases in this manner. For some reason, what was 1000 became 1500 all of a sudden, and then it became 1200. What do you feel? You feel like the GDP growth has fallen? Agreed or not? Why do you feel like this? Just because of this year. Such an effect is called base effect. Did you understand? Clear? Yes? Next. You missed a concept. for being late. Okay, an important concept. You can get a question on that. So go home, watch it. Tomorrow I'll ask you to the same question. So tomorrow you don't have class. Yes. Next. Now, inflation chapter is done. Inflation chapter is done. Did I deal with housing prices? No. No. Housing prices, did I talk about? No. So there is one more concept in what? Inflation. The last concept of inflation, that is called residence. What is it called? It's called the residence. Residence means residential index. It means residential index. So what happens in this? Very simple. Very simple. In this, there is one organization, right? Central organization called NHB. National Housing Bank, right? National Housing Bank. What does it do? What does it do? Its work, in simple terms, its work is refinancing. Refinancing who? Refinancing banks maybe, or other, non-banking financial companies, NBFCs we call them. Banks or NBFCs. What does it do? It basically does refinance. What is refinance? NHB gives loans to them. NHB gives loans to them. For what purpose? So that they can lend to customers, private customers, for what? Building houses. Housing loans. So this particular NHB wants to promote housing in India. So loans given to banks and other financial institutions like NBFCs, and they will give loans to customers. Why? Because banks do not have enough money, let's say. Right? So loan will be given by NHB to them. They will give the loans. This is how it is. No. Banks don't get the money from RBI, right? Banks can borrow the money from RBI, right? Not under a scheme. It is like a scheme, right? Under various schemes, NHB lends the money to banks. Done. Now, this NHB, what it does is, it tracks the prices of houses, real estate, rents. It tracks the prices. On a monthly basis, it tracks. Right? However, it releases the data quarterly and annually. Quarterly and annually, it releases the data. So, assessing the prices. So basically, in this particular city, let's suppose, at what price is the house being sold? Right? At what price, at what rate is the rent being collected? Now, which year is considered as the base year? In order to compare, you have to consider, right, a base year. What is considered as the base year? The base year is considered to be 2017. And for how many cities does it track the prices? NHB. NHB tracks the prices for almost 50 cities across the country. For 50 cities. Done? Clear? So it tracks the prices. It gives us the data related to how the prices are moving in these cities. Are the housing prices increasing or decreasing? Are the rents increasing or decreasing? Accordingly, the customers can make the choice. Customers can make the choice as to go into a rented house or to buy a house itself. Say for example, in Jayanagar, how much is it? Here, if you want to, rent a 2 BHK in a good locality, how much would it cost? It would cost somewhere around 35,000, 2 BHK, rent ke liye. Now, people think, okay, 2 BHK, 35,000. If I add another 10,000 per month, that will become EMI. I can buy a house itself. Yes or no? So what is this? If you get an idea as to housing prices, real estate, what is real estate? Land price, basically. Okay? So that is all tracked by whom? NHB, and the data is released how often? 3 months once, that is quarterly and annually. And this index that is created is known as what? Precedence. This is known as huh? Source as in money. Where does it get the money from? Now, any organization we talk about, the moment we say a central organization, NHB is a All India Financial Institution, AIFI, All India Financial Institution. So we are going to discuss about that later on. But since you asked, AIFI, in India, you have 4 of them. One is newly added. I don't want to add it now, right? So remember the 4 now, which you have already heard of. Which are they? Have you heard of NABARD? Yes. Okay. Have you heard of EXIM? EXIM, Export Import Bank of India. EXIM. What is NABARD? National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development. EXIM. And then SIDBI, have you heard of it? Small Industries Development Bank of India, SIDBI. And finally, you have NHB. All of them are called All India Financial Institutions. Right? All India Financial Institutions. Now, they are all owned by whom? The Government of India. So money comes from where? Government of India. So from the budget allocation, they put some money into these organizations on a regular basis. So initially they would have put some money. Now what are they doing? They are lending to the banks and they collect interest from the banks as well. So basically what is that? So they are getting the money source is from the government itself. Right? So as of now, they become self-reliant after some time. What is self-reliance? They are going to earn for themselves. How? They have got some initial money, some 500 crore from the government. They have given for what? Loan. They'll earn the interest. They can run their business on their own. Yes or no? So whenever there is a shortage, NABARD can get the extra corpus, extra money from the government if it needs. Done? Next. So that's the end of your chapter on inflation. Now, related to inflation, there are certain other things you need to know. Related to inflation, or rather, I would say on the lines of inflation itself, there are other things we calculate as well. Right? One of the most important number that is calculated that way is IIP. Index of Industrial Production. Index of Industrial Production. Now tell me from the previous class, okay? Who publishes WPI? WPI. Office of Economic Advisor. Office of Economic Advisor. DPIIT. What is DPIIT? Department for the Promotion of Industries and Internal Trade. Okay, done. Who releases CPI Industrial Workers? Labor Board. Who releases CPI All India? NSO. Who releases GDP deflator. GDP deflator. Online people. Who releases? Okay, RBI are not part of AIFI. 2019 से पहले, Atul, before 2019, RBI was the one which actually owned some of the AIFIs. RBI is not a part of All India Financial Institution. No, it's an autonomous body altogether. Okay? Tell me. What did I ask you? GDP deflator. Who releases it? Online people. Answer. RBI. Mamata, Atul, Tanushri. Who releases GDP deflator? MOSPI. Okay. I'll tell you. MOSPI is Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, right? What about others? Okay, RBI. Now, simple thing. Who releases nominal GDP? Real GDP. Who releases those numbers? NSO, right? Which means GDP deflator is what? Nominal GDP by real GDP into 100. Then who releases this number? NSO. Kadam. Yes or no? Done. Next. IIP, Index of Industrial Production. It is not related to what? Inflation, but that is the way it is calculated. So however we calculated CPI, WPI, right? So in the same manner we calculate IIP as well. That is why I have put here. So then what does it measure? It measures index of industrial production. So it measures the industrial output, basically the volume of industrial output. What is it? What is the volume of industrial output? How many goods are being produced? Right? How many goods are being produced? It's not about the value of the goods. It's about what? How many goods are being produced. It's not about the prices. It's about the volume, quantity. It's about the quantity. So how do you compare the quantity? Obviously, it's the same way you compared in CPI. What did you do? You created a basket of goods, right? After creating a basket of goods, what did you measure? The prices of all those goods in the basket. Yes or no? Right? And then you equated it to 100. How did you do it? Remember or don't remember? You remember. So you equated it to 100. So the base year, whatever the base year was considered, in that year, it was considered to be 100. After that, next year, the same basket of goods, you track the prices. Now, here also, same thing. What we do? We select a base year. The base year is 2011-12. The base year is 2011-12. And in this year, we create a basket. In this basket, we add some items, 3 categories of items. One is manufacturing items. 2, mining and electricity. 3 categories of items. In the year 2011-12, how much of these things was produced? Volume. Right? Total 3 categories. How many items are there? There are a total of 865 items in this. The 865 items, and how many categories? 3 categories. Okay, let's suppose in manufacturing some 2000 products were produced. Just for example, 2000 products were produced across various categories, right? In mining, some quantity of production was somewhere around 1000, and in this it is 500. Let's suppose this is the quantity of production. In which year? 11, 12. Done. Quantity. Now what we do next? Total kitna hua? 3500. This is the total quantity that has been produced. How do you calculate an index number? How do you calculate index number? So the index number for which year? 2011, 12, that is FY12. How do you calculate? Huh? The volume index, right? The volume for the production in which year? This year, that is 3500 divided by the volume of production in base year. How much is base year? 3500 itself into 100. How much do you get? 100 for that year. Now in the next year, 12-13, what will we do for FY13? We'll increase the production by a bit. So we'll add 100 items here, 100 items here, 100 items here, or some 300 items here, right? So total kitna hua? 4000. Now it is 4000. How do you calculate the index for FY13? Index FY13. How do you pay it? 4000 divided by base year का कितना है? 3000 into 100. How much do you get? 4 by 3. 1.12. Yes. 1.33. 1.333. Okay. 1.333 into 100. 133. So this was 100. It has become 133. What does it mean? It has increased by how much? 33%. Right? It has increased by 33. 100 say 133. Base year is 35. Okay, 3000. Now the number changes. So you can calculate. So basically this is how you do it. Yes? So how much do you get? 4000 by 3500? 4000 by 3500. Tell me the exact number. Calculate. How much? 1.03, which means 103. Yes? 1.03 into 100. 103. Now, if you increase it further, right? So you increase it by, let's say, another 500. So how much does it become? 4500, right? For next year. So index for which year? FY14. How much is it? 4500, right? 4500 divided by 3500 into 100. How much do you get? Tell me first. 4500 by 3500. Calculator. You don't have a calculator. Online people, you tell me. I think you will be more free. 1.28, right? 1.28 into 100, 128. Correct? Yes. 1.3. 1. 1.3. 1. Okay, this is what you get. Now, 100, 113, 128. How do you calculate the growth rate in IIP? How do you calculate the growth rate? The growth rate for FY13 in IIP is how much? 113 minus 100. Why is it 100? Previous year. Divided by 100 into 100. How much? 13% growth rate. Growth rate for FY14, how much is it? Growth rate, percentage terms. 128 minus previous year, which is the previous year. 113 divided by 113 into 100. Whatever value you get, that is the percentage increase. Remember, while calculating the index number, you use what? The base year value. Look at this base year value while calculating the index number. But while calculating the percentage change, what do you compare it to? The previous year. Very important.
So, are we taking, if for example, you got that number 4,000, is it prices or is it the amount?
It is the product quantity, volume of production. It's not the prices, it's the volume. How many goods are being produced? That is why I told you it is not about the prices. It's what? It's the volume of production. Yes? Next. Now, sir, in this basket, which one is more? Is manufacturing items more, or mining items more, or electricity more? Right? Manufacturing items have the highest weightage. Right? They have 77.6% weight. Basically, it means 77.6% of the items are manufacturing items itself. So in this basket, most of the items are manufacturing items. Second, we have mining items, which is 14.3%. And electricity, we have 7.99, which is 8%. Okay. So, manufacturing items are maximum in the basket. Second would be mining, and third would be electricity. Done? That's about your IIP. So what do you track here? Do you track the prices or the volume of production? You track the volume of production in IIP. Done? Next. Any doubts you have, you can ask me. Online people, any doubts? No? Others, any doubts? Until you say yes or no, we'll not move further. Huh? Huh? Where? In every number that is calculated, there is room for error. There will be. Okay? Wonderful. The next thing. Who calculates this number, by the way? IIP is calculated by NSO. Okay. NSO. Remember this way. Don't try to remember the numbers which are calculated by NSO. Try to remember only those numbers which are published by others. It's easy to remember that way. Yes or no? See, every number is calculated by NSO. Just remember this. There are only few numbers which are calculated by others. Remember only those numbers. It becomes easy. Yes. Next. Out of all the industries, or of all the basket of goods we considered here, there are some industries which are considered to be core. Core as in very, very important industries, without which the economy cannot run. The government has identified 8 such industries. Right? 8 such industries have been identified. And all these 8 industries are within what? Within that basket we created. Which basket? The IIP basket. Within that IIP basket itself, you have these 8 industries. Okay? So, which are these 8 industries? Remember in the same order. You have to remember in the same order, which means the weightage is according to this order. First, refinery. Second, electricity. steel, coal, crude, natural gas, cement, and fertilizers. These are the 8 core industries. You have to remember it in the same order. So highest weightage is for refinery, second electricity, steel, coal, crude, natural gas, cement, fertilizers. That is in the basket, maximum items, which one do you find? Maximum weight, refinery items, maximum weight. That is maximum quantity, you find refinery items itself. Why? Because the production is highest for that in terms of units. Now, you know what is refinery? What is refinery? Oil refinery. So, crude oil is imported and we have huge refineries in India. Right? What do? They convert the crude oil into petrol, diesel, right? Kerosene, wax, and all these petroleum products we call. So basically, when you look at the imports and exports of India, we import crude oil, right? And we export petrol, diesel. Why is that? We import and we have refineries here. We put it into refineries, convert it to petrol, diesel, and then export. Some of it we use for ourselves, and some of it we export as well. So that is why we have highest refinery, then electricity, steel, coal, crude, natural gas, cement, and fertilizers. Done. Now, obviously, just like we calculated the growth in the volume of production of all the items, how many items? 865 items, right? We tracked the production by how much is it increasing. Likewise, can we track the production of these 8 core industries as well? By how much is the production increasing? Yes. Now, we call it as core industries index. We call it as core industries index. The base year for this, what would be the base year? Same. 2011-12. So remember, it is FY12. The base year is FY12. Now tell me, who releases this? It is released by Office of Economic Advisor, DPIIT. Now you get the questions here itself. See, basically, IIP is released by whom? NSO. IIP is released by NSO. Obviously, CII is a part of NSO. CII is a part of IIP. That's what we consider. But this number is released by whom? Released by Office of Economic Advisor. So, basically, how it happens? First, CII is released by OEA DPIIT. This number is taken up by NSO. Along with that, it collects other data as well. Then releases what? IIP. This is how it works. Done. Sir, we are calling it as core industries, right? Core industries index. What is the weightage of these 8 industries in that particular basket? Which basket? IIP basket. How much weightage does it have? It has 40% weightage. That's huge. Only these 8 core industries have 40% weightage. Done? Clear? 40% weightage of IIP basket. Okay, within that IIP basket, these 8 industries alone have how much weightage? 40% weightage. Which means they are so big. These industries are so big. Next. 40% of IIP. Okay. Next. What is CII? What is CII? Core Industries Index. Core Industries Index. Okay. Calculation of CII is required or not? Not required. See, any of the calculations are not required. Right? I teach the calculations because you understand it better. You don't forget. Say, for example, if I just tell you, what is that? CPI is an index, right? CPI is an index, and compared to last year, it increases by this much. If I tell you like that, will you be able to remember? I don't think you will be able to remember. You don't get to understand the concept at all. That is why we do the calculation. Now, sir, even CIA is about volume? Absolutely. It is also about volume itself. Now, so how do we calculate CIA? How do we calculate CIA? Same way as we calculated IIP. But in the basket, what do we have? Only these 8 industries items. That's all. That is all. Okay. So basically, in IIP, what do you have? What do you have in IIP basket? Manufacturing, mining, and electricity. Out of this, there are how many items? 865 items. Out of these items, right? Out of these categories, we select some 8 industries. These 8 industries are called what? Core. Core industries. Right? We track the volume of production only of these 8 core industries. And that is the basket. The basket has only 8. We track the volume of production. And this index, what do we call? Core industries index. That's all. And what am I saying? These 8 industries alone will constitute how much of this basket? 40% of that basket. Clear? Yes? Amongst these 8 core industries, highest kiska hai? Refined. Second, electricity. Third, steel. Next, coal, crude, natural gas, cement, and fertilizers. They had asked a question as well. Which of the following is not a core industry? They had given 4 options. Right? Out of the 4, they had added automobiles as well. The moment you see automobile, you will be inclined, hey, automobile is such a big industry, it must be a core industry. You mark. That is why you have to remember properly and the orders. Right? Clear? Next. Understood, everyone? Yes? Online people, awake? If awake, say yes. Next. Are there any other ways of calculating the volume of production, whether the production volume is increasing or not? So, when we say the production volume is increasing, can we say that GDP will also be increasing? Yes or no? Real GDP will also be increasing, right? So, can we say that IIP is a good metric to see whether the GDP is going to increase or not? Yes. Done. Now, likewise, apart from IIP, we also have other measures to calculate the volume of production. Right? So one such measure is called Annual Survey of Industries. Annual Survey of Industries, ASI. Okay. Who does the calculation? Obviously, NSO. NSO. And obviously, as the name suggests, how often? Annually. IIP, how often is it released? Every month. IIP, every month. All the numbers every month. Except for which one? Except for housing price index, which is 3 months once. Okay, housing price index 3 months once, quarterly. GDP data, is it released every month? No, GDP data is released annually and quarterly as well. Done. So annual survey of industries every year. So it covers all the registered factories in India, registered units, electricity companies. It covers all of them and tracks the production annually. But this number is not useful for us very much. Why is it not so useful? Why is it not so useful? Because it comes with a lag. Lag as in after 1 year you get the data. Right? Say after 1 year you get to understand that the production has been very low. Can the government take any measures now? There's no point. Every month if it is getting the data, whether the production is increasing or decreasing. If the production is decreasing, the government can take the measures to increase the production. Yes or no? Okay. Now, apart from this, there is one more number. This is known as PMI, Purchasing Managers Index. Purchasing Managers Index. This number, the Purchasing Managers Index, is calculated separately for manufacturing, separately for services sector, and then there is a composite number. 3 numbers are released. And remember, PMI is not an index released by the government. Government number 90. This is not a government number. It is not released by the government. Composite number, a combination of these two, plus something extra. But majority manufacturing services plus something extra. That's not required for us. Okay. What is the significance of this? This is released every month. This number is also released every month, separately for manufacturing, separately for services. Whether compared to last month, whether the services or the manufacturing or the composite outlook, does it look better or not? Whether the production is going to increase or not. This idea you are going to get with this number. So who releases this number? PMI. Market Economics. That's a firm. IHS Market Economics. That's the firm name. This firm releases the number in India. Okay. IHS Market Economics. Now, how is it calculated? Remember, this is not an index like we calculated CPI, WPI, ISA index. This is not that index. This index is different. This index is based on a survey. It is based on a survey. What is a survey? What is ASI? Annual Survey of Industries. All that is done in Annual Survey of Industries. You go to various industries registered factories in India. You go there and ask how much is the production. Right? You check the books and see by how much has the production increased compared to last year. Basically, you take the data and then come and check whether the volume of production has increased or not compared to the last year. You collect from all the factories. Right? So, this is a survey. Who are surveyed? Some 500 firms. This executives, top level executives. $500 firms across India in manufacturing, 500 firms in services sector across India. In each sector 500. Remember, these 500 firms I am talking about, they are only private firms, not public sector undertakings. Only private. They don't go and ask the public sector units. Right? Government owned firms, they don't. So only private sector. In that, there are top level executives like managers and above them. They ask them. What do they ask? They ask the questions on 5 parameters. They are questioned about 5 parameters. One, new orders, output, employment, Next, suppliers delivery, and stock of purchase. On these 5 parameters, they are asked questions. Top level executives or anyone above managers. They will go and ask these people. So people from market economics, their representatives will go to these companies, and there they will find the managers and above them, and they will be asked questions about these 5. Questions like what? What do you think in the upcoming months you are going to get new orders or not? What do you think? Will your firm employ more people this year, this month or not? What is your idea? How is the supplier's delivery? Whether they are supplying enough for you or not. Right? So, what do you think? For the next month, you will have enough supply delivered or not? Aisa questions. So, for each question, you are supposed to answer. Either as yes or no. Right? Or you might say maybe, may not be. So your answer will be rated as 1 if you say positive, 0 if you say negative, 0.5 if you say maybe, maybe not. It is like performance of their firm and what is the outlook for their firm in the coming month. So they give these inputs. Now, across India, they ask 500 firms. From each person, probably they have asked some 40-50 questions and they compile the data. Right? After compiling the data, out of 100, how much is it they are getting? So, out of 100, how much are they getting? When they compile the data, they consider in terms of 100, right? If the score is 100, then they say that for the upcoming month, the outlook is very, very positive. If the score is 0, it means outlook is very, very negative. If it is only 50, it means it remains the same as last month. However, was the last month, this month also it will be the same. If it goes above 50, more than 50 towards 100, if it is going, it means what? Compared to last month, it is a bit more positive itself. Anything over 50 is considered to be good. Why? Compared to last month, this month, the outlook is better. Anything less than 50 would be what? Compared to last month, it is not so good. Understood? Clear? So that is why what do we find in the PMI? We generally find it to be 56, 57, I something that. Right? If it comes below 50, it means compared to last month, it is not so good. So, based on this index, don't you think the investors will decide whether to put the money or not? So, PMI is a very good indicator to track investor sentiment as well. What is it? Investors sentiment. Clear?
So what is the scope of that market economy? That form which is doing all this?
Huh?
Why is it doing it?
No. See, most of the firms they do it as a service of what? See, the moment they provide this index, apart from this, they will have a lot many other ones. As in investment itself, it will be their work, right? So whether to invest or not, investor sentiment, if they only are tracking, they'll make the investments better, right? They will provide the services to other industries, other investors, right? Fine. Itna hua. Next. Did we talk about inflation targeting? Yes. Have we spoken about it? How much is the inflation target? 4 plus or minus 2. 4 plus or minus 2. We'll look at the graphs in the next class. Okay. So in the next week's class or day after tomorrow, we'll look at the graphs. How is the inflation moving? So I want to look at the inflation with monetary policy. Right? That would be better. So that is why I'll not show you the graphs now. Okay. Next. Did I speak about MPC? Monetary Policy Committee? No, right? So, inflation targeting we have spoken about. Okay. Monetary Policy Committee will look at it with the monetary policy chapter itself. Done? So, the next part is business cycle. Business cycle. You can say it is a new chapter or it is a part of inflation chapter itself. But you can consider that to be a new chapter. Why? Because it is in no way related to inflation as such. Directly not correlated to inflation. Business cycle. Okay. Are you always happy? Are you always happy? No. Are you always sad? Yes? Okay. Are you always not happy, not sad? Always. No. None of the states are permanent. Which means it's like this, ups and downs are there. Okay. Now, when do you buy mostly? When you are generally, happy and you have money. Both. Right? When you are very sad, do you buy something? Obviously not. You may. Right? It depends. Now, it depends. It changes from person to person. Right? Your buying habits, your selling habits are dependent on each person. As a person varies, the decisions also vary. Agreed. If that is the case, don't you think the demand is changing, ever changing? Because the demand is ever changing, don't you think the production will also be ever changing? Yes or no? Based on the demand you are going to produce, the production will also be ever changing. Because the production is ever changing, don't you think the GDP will be ever changing? Will be going up and down? Don't you think because of that employment will be going up and down? Don't you think because of this prices will be going up and down? So all the macroeconomic indicators will be seeing ups and downs. Who is responsible for this? We are responsible. Human factor is responsible. Human decisions, choices are responsible. Now, The business cycle, just like our lives, go up and down. So what are the lows called? What are the ups called? We'll start with a slowdown. We'll start with a slowdown. From slowdown, the business cycle will become what? Recession. From recession, it becomes a depression. From depression, a recovery. Okay. From recovery, what is it? From recovery, what do you have? Boom. So I would write it here. Boom. From boom, slow down. So, boom is the high point. Boom is the high point. Slow down, a bit low. Recession, bit lower. Depression, worst point. Depression is the worst point. Now, sir, can we recover from the slowdown itself? Can we recover? Yes. You can recover. From recession, can you recover? Yes. So you can go from slowdown to recovery and recession to recovery as well, and from depression to recovery as well. Now, how does this work? How does this work? When you have a good government, it is going to sense the signs of slowdown and it is going to take the measures towards recovery. When you have a bad government, it is going to wait till recession, then it is going to detect and then it takes the measures to recovery. When you have the worst form of government, it waits till depression, then takes the measures and makes the recovery. Clear? That's all. Now, what are these phases? How do you know whether we are in this phase or not? Okay. For this, we have to track certain things in each phase. In between also, you have certain other phases. For example, slowdown to recession. In between, you have one more phase called as stagnation. Right? What is it called? Stagnation. And after boom, there is one more high point called as overheating. Overheating, not overeating. It is overheating. Okay. So what happens in each of these stages? What happens in each of these stages? Now, we'll start with slowdown itself. Do you remember GDP growth and growth rate? Do you remember? Growth is in absolute terms. Growth rate is in percentage terms. Done. How should your GDP growth be? Your GDP growth should be expanding. How should be the GDP growth rate? That also should be increasing. So last year, if it is 6%, this year it should be 6.1%, 6.2%. Compared to last year, it should be increasing. That's how it should be. Now, whenever slowdown starts, growth will be there. In the sense, the economy will be expanding. However, the growth rate is going to start to fall. Which means it is expanding, right? It is expanding, but it is falling. What is falling? Growth rate. Which means last year it was 6% growth rate. This time it is expanding, The number has increased, but at what rate? 5.5%. Next year it is 5%, 4.5%. Don't you think the percentage growth rate is falling? Yes or no? What is that? That is a sign of a slowdown. Growth is expanding. What is growth? Absolute number. Absolute number is increasing, but percentage terms it is falling. So you have to remember the first chapter, otherwise you will not understand. Yes? So the growth rate is falling. So is growth positive or not? Yes, it is very much positive. But the rate of growth is falling. Whether that is positive or not, that is also in the positive territory itself. Right? But it is slowing down. Whenever this happens, whenever the slowdown starts, tell me whether there will be inflation or not. Inflation will be there. However, the rate of inflation, what will it be? Will it be increasing or will it be falling? The rate of inflation. See, the prices will be increasing, right? But the rate of price increase, will it be falling or will it be increasing? It will be falling. Here itself, we talk about what is known as disinflation. Remember disinflation or not? You don't know this disinflation? See, the thing is, even if we miss out one topic somewhere, invariably we have to learn that topic somewhere. Why? Because without that topic we can't move forward. Somewhere or the other it will come back. Okay. So you guys thought that the class is at 10 o'clock. Yes? How many of you thought that way? One. You thought the class is at 10? Okay, you did not read the entire message. Okay. Let's say I'm going back to inflation chapter itself again. The price of a product is 100. From 100 it became 110. From 110 it became 120. 120 is a 130. Open your calculator fast. Has the price increased? Yeah. Yes. Is there inflation or not? Is there inflation or not? Absolutely, there is inflation. Now, what is the rate of inflation? Rate of inflation, how do you calculate? 110 minus 100 divided by 100. How much is it? 10%. 10%. How much is inflation rate here? 120 minus 110 divided by 100. Sorry, 120 minus 110 divided by 110. How much is it? 9%. How much is it here? 130 minus 120 divided by 120 into 100. How much is it? 8%. Done. Now, are the prices increasing? Yes or no? The prices are increasing. What about the rate of inflation? It is decreasing. Is it in positive or not? It is very much in positive. What do we call this? Disinflation. The rate of inflation is falling. Then we call it as disinflation. Now, I will add one more towards the last. I'll make it 120 again. I made the price how much? 120. Are the prices increasing or falling? The prices are actually falling. Right? The prices are actually falling. Now, how much is the inflation rate here? 120 minus 130 divided by 130. How much is it fast? Minus 10 divided by 130. How much is it? You mean to say 7%? Yes. Minus 7%. The moment you get a negative sign in percentage or the prices drop, the moment the prices drop, it will go into negative. The percentage is negative. The moment you get a negative or the prices drop, we call it as what? Deflation. Exact opposite of inflation. What do we call it? We call it as deflation. Understood or not understood? Okay. 100 to 110, 120, 130. Till that point, the prices are increasing or not? Right? So, if you calculate the percentage terms compared to 110 and 100, by how much did the prices increase? 10%. By how much did the prices increase here? 120 and 110? 9%. Here, 8%. So the prices are increasing in absolute numbers, but in percentage terms, is the number increasing or decreasing? It is decreasing. Whenever in percentage terms the number is decreasing, right? Then what do we call it? Disinflation. But are these percentages positive or negative? They are all positive, right? But when the number actually reduces from 130 to 120, it actually became lesser. The prices fell actually. The price did not increase. The price actually fell. Now, what do we get? The sign negative. Then what do we call it as? Deflation. Clear? Now, instead of considering this to be prices, consider this to be GDP itself. Consider this to be GDP itself. What is happening to the GDP here? The GDP is expanding. Agreed or not? GDP is expanding. What is happening from here to here? GDP is contracting. Right? GDP is contracting. What is happening to the percentage GDP growth rate? It is decreasing. Can we say that this is slowdown? Yes or no? This itself is slowdown. Yes or no? The GDP growth rate is falling. GDP is expanding, but at a slower rate. How should these numbers be? These numbers should be 10%, 10.2%, 10.3%. Then we say GDP is expanding and it is healthy, healthily growing. If this number is falling, we say there are signs of slowdown. It is slowing down bit by bit. Agreed? Okay. Now, let me slide me like this. So, whenever slowdown happens, what is happening? The GDP growth rate tends to fall. It is still in the positive territory. GDP is expanding. What about the prices? The prices are increasing, but the rate at which the prices are increasing, the inflation rate tends to fall. Basically, disinflation. So, growth rate is falling. Growth is normal. That is, growth is increasing. Absolute numbers, and then, what is it? We have disinflation happening. Agreed? What about the unemployment rate? What about the unemployment rate? Will it increase or will it decrease? Unemployment rate. What is unemployment rate? What is unemployment? You know what is unemployment? More people will be getting jobs or less people will be getting jobs? Less people will be getting jobs. Why? The GDP growth rate is starting to slow. New job creation will be lesser. That's what you're going to write. New job creation will slow down. Because new jobs are not created much, right? Unemployment will show signs of increase a bit. A tiny bit increase will happen. Unemployment rate. Why? Because new jobs are not being created. So, if this continues for some period, then we see a phase called a stagnation. What is stagnation? Huh? Now tell me, one more point I want to just ask you. If I say inflation in the month of December or inflation in the month of March this year, 2023, is 6.5%. What am I comparing to? 6.5% increase in the prices compared to February 2023 or some other month? I am talking about March 2023. 6.5% inflation is there. Which inflation? CPI inflation. It is 6.5%, let's say. 6.5% compared to what? Compared to last year's March. Compared to what? Last year March. So, March 2022 compared to March 2023. This is known as point-to-point calculation. CPI, WPI, any other inflation number is calculated in this manner. GDP, quarterly you get. Yes, GDP quarterly you get. So, which quarter? Let's say we are in the fourth quarter now. What is the fourth quarter? January to March is considered to be the fourth quarter of a financial year. So, when I say GDP growth is 6%, 6% compared to what? Compared to last year's Jan to March. Okay, this is also given. At the same time, for GDP, they also mention like compared to the last quarter, GDP has grown by 6%. Right? Last quarter in the sense, what is last quarter? Last quarter in the sense, October, November, December. Right? So, you get the numbers in two ways. See, whenever we are talking about inflation numbers, what is it compared to? Inflation number is always compared to what? Compared to corresponding month. Corresponding month of previous year. What is this? Inflation numbers. Whereas PMI, remember PMI? What is it compared to? The previous month. Remember this. PMI is always compared to the previous month. GDP, corresponding quarter. What is corresponding quarter? If I am talking about Q4 of this year, I am comparing it to Q4 of last year. Done. Corresponding quarter. And also, they may mention compared to last quarter. Last quarter as in previous quarter. So you get the numbers in any manner. Done. Inflation always what? Corresponding month of previous year. If I am talking about February 2023, 5% inflation, it is compared to what? Last year's February, 5% increase has happened. Now you may ask, sir, why? Why compared to previous years, that particular month exists? Corresponding quarter means if corresponding quarter of previous year. Now. What is Q1? Q1, which month to which month? April to June. Q2? July, September. Q3? August to? October 9. August, September, October. Okay.
August is done, sir.
August is done. Okay. July, October, November, and December. Next, Q4, Jan to March. Now, when I say GDP is GDP growth rate corresponding quarter, it means if I am comparing Q4 of 2023, I am comparing it with what? Q4 of 2022. That is corresponding quarter. When I say previous quarter, how is it calculated? When I say Q4 of 2023, I am comparing it to Q3 of 2023 itself. 2023 itself, right? So 2023 in the sense FY 2023. In FY 2023, what do you have? So Q4 FY 23 compared to Q3 FY 23. Now tell me the months. Which ones are included here? Jan to March of which year? 2023. What do you have here? October to December of which? 2022. 2. What is FY 23? What is FY 23? April 2022 to March 2023. That is FY 23. You did not get it. Confused what? So tell me, what is FY 23? How do you, what months are included in FY 23? Tell me that. April 2022 to now April 2022 हुआ, उसके बाद मई, जून, जुलाई, अगस्त, सितंबर, अक्टूबर, नवंबर, दिसंबर, जन, फेब, March 23. Okay. Previously, what do you have? Jan 22, Feb 22, March 22. Okay. When I say FY 23, where does it start? From here. Where is Q1 of FY 23? This is Q1 of FY 23. What is this? This is Q4 of FY 22. Agreed. This is Q2. This is Q3. This is Q4. Now when I compare Q4 of FY 23 with Q4 of which year? FY 22. Then what do we say? Corresponding quarters. When I say compare with the previous quarter, what am I comparing with? These 3 months compared to these 3 months. Clear? Yes? Okay. Done. So what happens in stagnation? Stagnation में क्या होता है? Okay. Growth will stop. Growth will stop. As in, the GDP stops expanding. What was 100 will not become 110. It will remain 100. Growth rate will become what? 0%. So 100 to 100. How much is the growth rate? 0. So let's continue with that. 120 the 120 will remain 120 itself. How much is the growth rate? 0%. This phase is known as stagnation. Now tell me, what will happen to the prices? Will they increase or will they start decreasing? Prices, will they increase or will they start decreasing? Obviously they will decrease more. Why will they decrease more? jobs are not created. People start, having less jobs, right? Payments will be less, which means demand will drop. Demand will drop means prices will increase or decrease. The prices will automatically decrease. Yes, the prices start to fall. Next is recession. When do you call it a recession? When do you call it a recession? Now, after it has reached 0% growth rate, okay, after it has reached 0%, what is the next phase? Obviously, this 120 will come down to probably 110. It will come down to 100. Now, 120 became 110, 100 became 110 became 100. Is it contracting or not? Yes, the economy has started to contract. Contract means the size is becoming smaller. Now, growth rate will be positive or negative? The growth rate will be negative. And if this phase continues, the negative growth rate, if it continues for 2 consecutive quarters, then what do we call it? So, negative growth rate for 2 consecutive quarters. 2 consecutive quarters, basically 6 months. If it is in negative territory itself, then we call it a recession. Now tell me, jobs. Will there be more jobs or less jobs? Obviously, much lesser jobs. Will the prices be increasing or decreasing? They will be decreasing further. Can you say there will be deflation here? What is deflation? Disinflation, nahi, deflation. What is deflation? Negative prices, right? So that is what you have during the recession. Now tell me, will there be more investments or less investments? More investments or less investments? Less investments. Why more investments, ma'am? Why more investments? So now, why will you invest when there is no demand? Yes or no? When will you make an investment? When you know that somebody is asking for it. When you clearly know nobody is asking for anything. See, how do you know nobody is asking for anything? Because the prices are falling. The prices are going into negative territory. The inflation is going into negative territory. Deflation ho raha hai. Nobody will invest. Right? So whatever they have invested, they may take back the money. Now, recession hua. If this negative phase continues for 4 consecutive quarters, then we call it a depression. Then we call it a depression. Okay, tell me, whether jobs will be created more during this phase? Jobs will not be created at all. In fact, whatever jobs are there, they will be lost. They are going to remove people from the jobs. During a recession, what they are going to do is, whosoever have the jobs now, right? Say for example, you're all employees. Now what am I going to do? Generally during a slowdown, you get to understand, okay, the production has fallen down, right? We are producing less compared to the previous years. We are producing less. That you get to understand as employees. Later on, during a recession, some of the employees will be put on bench. As in, because there is no need to produce more. Why? Because demand is less. So some of the employees are put on bench. As in, we will call you for work later on. You stay there at home, maybe. And during the depression, they will say, Tata, bye bye. You are on bench, stay there itself. Don't come. But in real life, how does it happen? Technically, this is how it should happen. But in reality, how does it happen? In reality, it happens this way. The moment there is sign of recession, the firms will say Tata bye bye. Yes or no? The moment there is recession, they are going to remove the workforce from their work, from their jobs. Why do they do it? If workforce is kept on bench, they are still to be paid the salary. If they are removed, no problem. They can cut the costs, right? So obviously, whenever there is a recession, are the firms going to make profit or losses? They are going to make a loss. How do they cut the loss? By removing some employees. So these employees are not producing anything. Better they stay at home, as in we don't want them. Instead of layoffs. Agreed or not? This is what happens. Now I'll come to that part about which you spoke, inflation ka. I'll come to that later, right? So technically recession ke time pe the prices will be very low. Now, if it continues for another 2 quarters, basically 4 quarters ke liye, if it is in negative itself, the prices will be very low. Despite the prices being very low, people are not demanding anything. Why are they not demanding anything? Because they don't have the purchasing power. They don't have the money. Why don't they have the money? Because they don't have the jobs. Why don't they have the jobs? Because nothing is being produced. Why are they not producing? Low demand. It is a vicious cycle. Agreed. So, itna hua? Done. Sir, how to come out of these phases? As I told you, slow down, it gives a signal. What is the signal? The growth rate starts to fall. Recession, negative. This negative for 4 quarters. So to come out of this, you take the same measures. You take the same measures for all the three. But the intensity of the measures is different. You use the same measures, but the intensity is different. What is the main problem we have now? What is the main problem? The main problem is demand. You have to kickstart the demand somehow. The main problem is there is no demand. Because there is no demand, there is no production. Because there is no production, no employment. Because there is no employment, no purchasing power. No purchasing power. So somehow you have to spark that demand. You have to ignite that demand. How do you ignite? This is where comes what we call as the fiscal stimulus. Fiscal means government side. From the government side, there is a stimulus, a push from the government side. Government takes some measures to push the demand. What does the government do? What does the government do? Government can do any of the. Sir, will the price decrease be spontaneous or after a delay for stagnation? Okay. Will the price decrease be spontaneous or will it be slow, gradual? It can be, generally it is going to be gradual, right? Generally it is going to be gradual. So month by month it is going to slow down. That is when you get the signals, right? That is when you get the signals. Okay, now stimulus. For stimulus, what are we supposed to do? The government takes some measures. One, government can increase the spending on infrastructure, public infrastructure it may build. Two, the government may increase its spending on basic necessities. The government may reduce the taxes, both direct and indirect. Okay. Generally direct taxes, not the indirect taxes. You can just write direct. So now, the government may ask the central bank, to reduce the interest rate. Now, what will happen with each of these? Let's suppose slowdown, recession, depression. In all the cases, what is the problem? What is the problem, sir? Growth rate has fallen, or growth rate is in negative. Employment has fallen. Demand is low. Main thing is aggregate demand is low. Aggregate demand is low. Investments have fallen. Nobody is investing. These are all the problems. Everything is on the negative side. Right? Now, how will each of these measures contribute? The first one, increase spending on public infrastructure. Jobs will be created or not? Yes, job creation will happen. Because jobs are created, the government will pay wages to these people or not? Because these people got extra money, don't you think their purchasing power will increase, because of which aggregate demand gets boosted? Agreed? Done. So, a stimulus to aggregate demand. Done. Next, along with this, one more thing is going to happen. What is that one more thing? Because infrastructure is already built, like roads, railways, telecommunication network, water supply, everything is provided already by the government. Don't you think the investors will find it easy to make investment? Attraction of what? Investment. Agreed or not? Yes. So more investment means more jobs. Again, same cycle. Basic necessities will be provided by the government. Basic necessities: food, clothing, shelter, health, education. Now the government is going to say, I am going to give subsidies on these things. When the government says it is going to give subsidies on these things, say for example, you are earning 1,000 rupees. Out of these 1,000 rupees, right, you are spending almost all of it on food, clothing, shelter, education, health. इस पे spend कर रहे थे. Now the government is saying, don't worry, I'll give you all these things for free. Now 1,000 rupees is extra with you or not? So can you say that disposable incomes will increase? Yes. Disposable incomes with people will increase. Will it lead to aggregate demand push or not? Aggregate demand increases. Now, in each of these cases, whenever the aggregate demand increases, inflation will pick up or not? Obviously, inflation will pick up. Yes? Next. Taxes are reduced. What taxes? Personal income tax, corporate income tax. If they are reduced, what will happen? What will happen? The disposable income in the hands of the people, will it increase or decrease? Again, disposable income will increase, because of which aggregate demand will increase. It gets boosted. So it will ask the central bank. What is the central bank? RBI. It will ask the central bank to reduce interest rates. If interest rates are reduced, right, will banks borrow more from RBI or less? Reduced interest rate. Okay, the banks will be able to borrow more from RBI, and will they lend to people at low interest rate or high interest rate? Low interest rate further. See, what am I saying? What am I saying? You have the central bank. Central bank lends money to the banks or not? If that interest rate is reduced, will banks borrow more from RBI or not? Obviously, they will borrow more. Why? Because interest rate is less. Now, because interest rate is less, they will also reduce the interest rate on whom? On the people, to borrow loans from the bank. That will reduce, which means people will borrow more or not? They will borrow more. And borrow more and do what? Invest. So, Because of this, investments will increase. If investments increase, more jobs, more employment. More employment means aggregate demand boost. Clear? Clear? Now, all of this here, the government has to spend money. Yes. Here also government has to spend money. Here, government spends money or not? It need not spend money, but it loses money, which means it has a value. It is losing money, which means it has a value. So here, the central bank loses some money because it reduced the interest rate. That also has a value. Each of it comes with a monetary value. Right? Each of it comes with a monetary value. Because the government is losing money, at the same time it is spending money as well. Don't you think the governments, remember the rule? Borrowing will be more than spending. Yes. Now the spending increases. Right? Spending increases now. Can you say the deficit of the government increases automatically? Yes or no? The fiscal deficit, the government's deficit increases. Just remember, fiscal deficit increases. I'll tell you what it is later on. So fiscal deficit keeps on increasing. Whenever the government wants to provide a stimulus, which it means the fiscal deficit will automatically increase. Why? Because it has to spend more. At the same time, it is not earning also much. Done. In such a scenario, we call it as what? Fiscal stimulus. What do we call it as? Fiscal stimulus. Because of the fiscal stimulus, what all things happen? What all things happen? Aggregate demand will be boosted. Investments will increase. Yes. Inflation, will it increase or fall? Inflation shows signs of increasing. Jobs will be created. Jobs will increase, which means unemployment rate will be falling. It will start to fall. Agreed. These are all the good things that happen. This phase, we call it as recovery. Such a phase is called recovery. Now, tell me, after recession or after depression or after slowdown, because of the government providing these, loans at low interest rate, RBI providing the loans at low interest rate, banks also will be providing at low interest rates. You want to boost demand. Don't you think there will be new firms coming into picture? Some of the old firms have closed because of recession. New firms will start. Will they come with new technology or not? This is the time for innovations and new technology. This is the time. Recovery phase. Innovations and new technologies will come forward. Startups will come here. Done. Sir, why people will borrow money from bank when they hardly don't have enough for basic things and repay? Here. Why will people borrow from the banks when they don't have enough? I'm not saying people will borrow. Who will borrow? Investors will borrow. Understood? Atul? Okay? Investors. Yes. So where was I? Here. This is recovery phase. Now, I was telling you there is a cost involved for everything. Whenever you give a stimulus, it is called a stimulus package, right? They don't give the stimulus at once. They take it step by step, right? So in one step, they are going to do this. In another step, they are going to do this. 1 month later, they are going to do this. Another 1 month later, they are going to do this, basically. So step by step. We call it as what? Stimulus packages. So this package size I am talking about, whole package size, will it be larger during a recession or will it be larger during a slowdown? During recession, the package will be bigger. Why? Because you have to recover more. During depression, it has to be much more bigger. Obvious. Clear? Now, be it recovery from the slowdown or the recession or the depression. Let's suppose your economy is in recession and it wants to make a recovery. What will the government do? The government will call all the economists along with the chief economic advisor and ask him, see, we are in recession. We have to recover. How much are we supposed to spend? How much will be this cost? How much stimulus package we are supposed to give? So chief economic advisor, after contacting all the statisticians and everyone, economists, he is going to say, see, to the finance minister, see, we are supposed to spend somewhere around 1 lakh crore rupees. The total worth of the package should be how much? 1 lakh crore. Done. Now, government will ask, the finance minister will ask, hey, are you sure? Are you sure if I spend 1 lakh crore? No? Are you sure we are going to come out of recession? Sir, there is a high chance. Now, finance minister will say, see, prime minister is sitting above me. Prime minister is saying, manage the economy, recover as early as possible. If I want to have a guarantee of recovery, how much I have to spend? Now the chief economic advisor and the other advisors, they will be like, sir, if you want a guarantee, it's always better to err on the side of what? Positive. Error kiya to positive side mein karte. We'll do the error on the positive side, not on the negative side. What is the negative side? Spending less than this. Spending more than this would be what? Positive side. So, you tell me whether the government will be inclined to spend on the positive side or the negative side. Positive side. Why? Because it wants to come out of this bad shape as early as possible. Now, don't you think it is going to spend some 10,000 crore extra? Yes. Government spends some 10,000 crore extra. Take your example itself. Take your example itself. You want to travel from Bengaluru to Mumbai. The cost of traveling from Bengaluru to Mumbai and back from Mumbai to Bangalore is 5,000 rupees, let's suppose. Will you take exactly 5,000 rupees when leaving home or extra? Why? To err on, that is the err on the side of positive. Yes or no? Everybody does the same. Government also does the same. Now, it spent 1.1 lakh crore. That's what it spent. How much was the requirement? 1 lakh crore. It spent 1.1 lakh crore. Which means money supply in the market increased or not? By how much? 10,000 crore extra high market. Because of this, where is this money now? In the hands of the people. When people have this extra money in their hands, will the demand increase or not? The demand keeps on increasing. When the demand keeps on increasing, inflation will increase or not? Yes. The inflation keeps on increasing. Now, from the recovery phase, after the fiscal stimulus, we'll head towards a boom. A boom is a phase where the growth rate will be increasing, aggregate demand will be increasing, inflation rate becomes high inflation rate because demand is more. Yes or no? Employment, everybody has job almost. The boom phase is till you spend that 1 lakh crore rupees. Now, the moment you start spending that 10,000 crore rupees also extra, that extra part when you start spending, don't you think overheating will happen? It means extra demand. The maximum your economy can produce is 10,000 items. Based on that, you are supposed to, spend how much? 1 lakh crore rupees. By that measure, 10,000 will be the demand. Now, if you spend more than 1 lakh crore rupees, how much will the demand be? 10,500. What will happen now? Demand is more than supply. Now, after this phase, you are going to find overheating, where the aggregate demand will be more than the aggregate supply. You can't match the demand. Why? The money is too much in the market. Now, inflation will be too high or not? Inflation will be very high. Right? Everybody has jobs. Right? Everybody has jobs. Machines are there. Machines are working 24/7. Still, the demand is not being able to be met. Why not? Because too much money in the hands of the people. The prices are too high as well. Now, go back to the inflation chapter. In the inflation chapter, what did we say? When the inflation is too high, who gets hurt the most? The poor people get hurt the most. Will the government be happy about it? The government will not be happy about it. What should the government do now? Somehow reduce the inflation. How does it reduce the inflation now? Take out that 10,000 crore rupees extra it has spent. Yes or no? For all this to happen, it would have taken somewhere around 5-6 months. Now the government wants the numbers again. It will ask the economists, hey, how much should I remove now? Economists are like, sir, see, going by the measure, the economy was also expanded. Probably we are supposed to remove somewhere around 7,000 crore rupees from the market. Sir, how do we remove? How do you remove? See, basically you have reached boom, overheating. Inflation is on the higher side. Aggregate demand is also high. But the problem is inflation. How do you remove it? How do you reduce the inflation? Now, whatever measures the government is going to take to reduce the inflation, to reduce what? The aggregate demand. Aggregate demand has to reduce, right? Because it is too high. It is beyond the supply. In order to do this, the government takes some measures. What should the government do? Don't you think exactly the opposite of what it did in fiscal stimulus? Reduce the spending, increase the interest rate. Ask the central bank to increase the interest rate. This is what it is supposed to do. Such measures are called fiscal consolidation measures. It will take up what? Fiscal consolidation measures. Done. Clear? Yes. It takes up fiscal consolidation measures, basically the opposite of fiscal stimulus measures. Exactly the opposite. It will now start to increase the interest rate. It will now start to increase the taxes. It will now reduce the expenditure. It will cut subsidies. Exact opposite. Now, the question is, to what level the spending has to reduce? To what level you have to do the fiscal consolidation? So it will ask the economists. See, inflation is too high, poor people are getting hurt. We have to come out of this situation as early as possible. How much should we remove? Economists say 7,000 crore you remove, sir. Are you sure? Are you sure? Sir, yes, sir, I am sure. But, what is that but? But it will take some time, sir. Are you having a guarantee? Sir, the guarantee is not there. Probably if you remove somewhere around 9,000 crore, हाँ पक्का आपका aggregate demand कम हो जाएगा, inflation भी कम हो जाएगा. It will reduce, पक्का. Now, instead of removing, how much did you remove? Instead of removing 9,000, 7,000 crore, how much did you remove? 9,000 crore. The moment you remove 9,000 crore, don't you think slowdown will happen? The next obvious thing that happens is slowdown. The economy is going to slow down. Sir, can't they do it exactly? Do you think they can do it exactly? When you can't make the decisions exactly, how can you expect the government, on the basis of people's choices, making the decision exactly? That is why what do we have? The ups and downs. Clear? Did you understand? Now, of all the phases we have seen here, what are the down phases? What are the up phases? These are all the down phases. Yes, these three. These three along with stagnation. Down phases. We call it as the deflationary part of the cycle. It follows a deflationary trend. The prices are falling all throughout. From here to here, what is it? It is an inflationary trend. The prices start to rise from recovery towards overheating. The prices will be rising. Inflationary trend. Now, let's suppose, sir, we were supposed to spend 1 lakh crore. What happens? Let's suppose recession. Your economy is in recession. I want to use a particular term now. Your economy is in recession. The economist said, how much are you supposed to spend? 1 lakh crore. The government is like, hey, no, I don't have that much money. We'll do one thing. We'll spend only 70,000 crore. Right? Now, the government started spending 70,000 crore. The economy was recovering. Uske baad, how much was it required? 1 lakh crore to make full recovery and reach boom. Because you spent only 70,000 crore. Till that point, it will show signs of recovery. Then again come back to recession. This is known as double dip recession. Recession to recovery and again back to recession. What do we call it? Double dip recession. Right? What do we call? Double dip recession. Recession to recovery, again back to recession. Clear? Yes. Yes. Every point, at every point, there is a role being played. Every point. Right? Avi, now this much is done. We'll go further. Clearly, did you understand? Yes? Now, we know that these are the bad phases. These are sort of bad phases. These are sort of good phases. Now, let's suppose you are somewhere here. Your economy is somewhere here. Do you want to go towards boom or not? You want to go towards boom. What measures will you take towards going boom? The government is going to spend extra. Yes or no? Basically, it undergoes fiscal deficit, right? Fiscal stimulus. All those measures which you take for heading from recovery towards boom. Are you going with the cycle or against the cycle? You are going with the cycle. That is why we call them as pro-cyclical measures. Pro-cyclical measures. You are going with the cycle. Measures you take to go with the cycle are called pro-cyclical measures. Yes. Now, you are in a slowdown, let's suppose. You are in a slowdown. You want to head towards boom. Before this, you had a boom phase, right? You want to head towards a boom, not recovery. I'm talking about boom. So you are heading from slowdown towards boom. Are you going with the cycle or against the cycle? What do we call them? Counter-cyclical measures. Understood? The measures which you take to go with the cycle, we call it as what? Pro-cyclical. If you want to go somewhere in the cycle, to the stage before that, we take what measures? counter-cyclical measures. It is very much possible. From slowdown, it may go to recession. If you are taking still measures to head towards recession, then what is it? Pro-cyclical measures itself. If you take measures to head back to boom, how do you take measures to head back to boom? How do you take? You take some measures to control inflation. Only few measures, so that you head back towards the boom phase. Understood? Yes? Next. Itna hua. That's the end of business cycle.
Where do you think India is right now?
Okay. Now that's the question. Where is India right now? Say, GDP growth is slowing down. GDP growth is slowing down. Inflation is supposed to be going down as well. Why? GDP growth is slowing down, which means what? There should be disinflation along with that. Yes or no? But what is the problem? The problem is the inflation is going up. Sir, why does this happen? Why does this happen? Generally, if GDP growth is slowing down, how should it be? How should it be? So GDP growth is slowing down, which means demand is lesser, right? That is why growth is slowing down. If the demand is less, inflation should be also on the lesser side. But inflation comes in two ways. Which are the two ways? Demand pull and cost push. Remember? Yes or no? Whenever the inflation is demand pull inflation, then what would be happening? Whenever the slowdown happens, inflation will go down. Agreed? But if the inflation is from the cost push side, what is cost push? The cost of production is increasing, raw material cost is increasing. Because of that, inflation is increasing. The inflation is increasing because of cost push. The prices are increasing because of this. Because the prices are increasing, it is costly for people to buy. That is why they are demanding less. Slowing down. And if it continues for a longer period of time, where do we head? We head towards a situation where the economy stagnates. At the same time, you will have inflation as well. What do we call it? Stagnation. This is where most of the economies are heading towards, including India. Inflation because of cost side. What is cost side? Because of raw materials, maybe. Raw material prices are high. Sir, what are raw materials? Basically inputs. The inputs are coming from foreign countries, international market. So internationally, there is Russia-Ukraine conflict. Because of that, supply is not well. Because of this, prices are increasing. Agreed? Yes? So, understood? This is where most of the economies are heading towards. Now, just look at this. Because the prices are increasing from the cost side, it is leading to what? Inflation. Inflation control करने के लिए क्या करना है? What are we supposed to do to control inflation? What is inflation? What is inflation? Inflation is when the prices are rising. Now, the prices are rising because of this reason, right? But the measures are generally taken by the central banks. What do the central banks do? They increase the interest rate. Yes or no? Because the central banks increase the interest rate, what will happen? Investments will increase or decrease? Because investments drop. This is the situation. This is known as tightening of monetary policy. Tightening of what? Monetary policy. Clear? Done. Wonderful, right? It's so much well connected, so many things. Online people, you have any doubts, you can ask me. Any doubts? Repeat which part? Okay, tightening part. Monetary policy. Monetary policy as a, what is monetary policy? Policy of the central bank. About what? About the money supply. How does it increase the or decrease the money supply? By either increasing the interest rate or decreasing the interest rate. Now, basically what I said is that inflation is increasing. Why is inflation increasing? Because of the raw material cost is increasing or the labor cost is increasing. Yes, because this is increasing, right? The inflation is going up. How to control inflation? The work of controlling the inflation in any economy is given to the central bank. So the central bank's understanding is simple. Why are the prices rising? Because of what? Because people have extra money. How do I reduce extra money? I will increase the interest rate. When I increase the interest rate, what will happen? What will happen? Banks will borrow less from me. And if the banks borrow less from me, they are going to lend to the people less. Or if they borrow from me also, they borrow for a high interest rate. Then they will lend at high interest rate. Now, will people borrow more from the banks or less? They will borrow less. If they borrow less supply of money in the market. If there is less supply of money in the market, inflation will come under control or not? Yes. But the problem is, what is the other side, flip side? Whenever the whenever the interest rates go up in the market, borrowing is less, means investment also will be less. Because investment is less, slowdown will happen. It is like a cycle. It is a vicious cycle. One is connected to the other. Yes? Done. Atul. So this increasing the interest rate is known as what? Tightening. Tight करते हैं इसको. Yes. Okay. Fine. Do you remember the example of depression? What example did I give you? Depression. The Great Depression, 1929. Yes. Okay. Have you heard of a recession that happened in 2008? Yes. Okay. Thank you.